going the distance in sex and porn addiction recovery. I mean, actually like recovering and not doing these things ever again. It's actually quite more difficult than people are making it sound. And I think the words sex and porn addiction are part of that problem. You know, when we hear addiction, the way our brain goes, and probably your wife's brain goes, is, hey, this guy's gonna go, he needs to go to treatment for 4 weeks, he's gonna detox, he's gonna go through his withdrawal symptoms, and then he'll get into all these kind of recovery things, and he'll be a recovered man, and this will be out of his life. There's a lot of flaws in that thinking. A lot of flaws in that thinking. And I think when we look at the recovery rate being only 36% of guys who are actually able to stay sober for greater than 5 years when it comes to sex and porn addiction, we need to really look at that number. And I don't think that everyone should be scared by how low that number is. I think we should just examine it from a standpoint of, are we actually recovering? Are these men actually getting better? Because the statistics would show no, they're not. And I don't believe that's because it's hard. I believe it's because we're kind of approaching this in a way that really doesn't create a great container for recovery. When we look at substances, right? Cocaine, heroin, alcohol, you don't need these substances to survive. We do not need alcohol to survive. This is not part of our genetic makeup and our DNA. Sex and attraction, on the other hand, are absolutely there, and there's nothing we can do to get them out of us, right? The desire to have sex is going to be there. Your unique kind of arousal and attraction, both, you know, wanting to be attracted to someone and then wanting them to be attracted to you. Again, these are biological. These are not things that we're going to be able to just get out of our lives. They're out of our control. So I think that's a big difference when we're looking at substance addiction versus process addiction, is these brain processes, some of them are biological, some of them are baked into you, and getting them out of your lives, just simply going to a treatment center or going to therapy, they're not going to just be able to be deleted, right? You can't just detox and go through the withdrawal symptoms and all of a sudden be cured. We're talking about an issue here that really needs to be fought and battled kind of every single day, and I want to kind of elaborate on that here in the rest of this episode. When we're looking at long-term recovery, right? Actually like going the distance and not relapsing, going the distance and not slipping, right? Actually creating a life where you are preserving the sexual energy for you and your partner. That's a really hard thing to do in the world that we have built today. If we look at sex and sex appeal, right? Our country, largely in the Western world, values monogamy, right? That is the dominant choice by a lot of couples, is to create this monogamous relationship where there's a marital contract where we are preserving physical sexual intimacy for each other, right? And preserving that for the husband and for the wife. But it's quite interesting to me because if that's really something that we all value and cherish, it really doesn't look like that from the outside looking in, right? We have created a world where we are kind of treating ourselves and everyone else like objects. There's this common thing in the sex and porn addiction space to beat up on these guys for objectifying women, which they are doing. They absolutely are doing that. But I also would just say, kind of zoom out and look around. Like, yes, okay, maybe other people are not engaging in these egregious and offensive sexual behaviors, right? Sex slavery and some of these awful practices. Again, pornography is sex slavery. That's what it is. These women, if we stopped paying them, they wouldn't be there. These other women in the sex worker world, that's sex slavery, right? We stop paying them, they wouldn't be doing these things. And so these are egregious behaviors. But if we really kind of zoom out at the basis, kind of the foundation of what makes these acts and desires there, it all kind of comes around the objectification. For my audience, women. Men have been trained culturally to see a rare, attractive woman as something of value, right? That sleeping with her is going to be this amazing experience that you need to add to your life. That getting her attention or her attraction gives you the confirmation that you are an attractive, superior, accomplished male. And whether you think you believe these things or not, you probably do, because they're everywhere. They're in Disney movies, they're in action films, right? The attractive female and the value to gain from her has been broadcasted everywhere. So much so that the women have actually fallen for it, right? Plastic surgery numbers are through the roof, right? Lip fillers are up almost 1,000%, right? To the point where women are actually buying into this narrative that, man, I need to look like one of these trophies, if you will, to be somebody that people notice, to be somebody that people care about, right? So my point is, our whole culture is kind of falling for this, and it's really sad. It's sad because we claim to value monogamy. We claim to value preserving the sexual energy for the partner. You know, these are all things that our society claims are very, very important. But gosh, it really doesn't seem like we're creating a container that really facilitates that, right? It seems like a container that's, just one trap after another after another. If I look at my friend circle, I don't know how many of them would fall into sex addicts or porn addicts. But if I look at my friend circle, there's really only 2 couples that have not been affected by infidelity, cheating of some kind. And even the 2 couples that haven't been affected by that, I bet you if I asked them, they might actually be affected. I've just never brought that topic up. So my point is, if I look around at my friend circle and I'm seeing all of this infidelity on both the male side and the female side, men and women, infidelity and cheating amongst women, the numbers are far higher and have been climbing since the 90s. And so my point is, if we're going to go the distance with this, I think we have to take a different approach. I think looking at it as an addiction that you're going to recover from, I think that's dangerous. I think that's very, very dangerous. And I think that's why we see really, really, really high relapse rate when we are talking about, 3, 4, 5 years, 6 years down the road. I don't think it's because recovery is actually that hard. I think guys are treating it like an addiction. And I really don't think they should look at it that way. I think there are some addictive elements to it, but I think we really need to look at this as a cultural issue of, am I being trained to want the validation from women? Am I being trained to want her attention? If you're in the gym, are you looking around and checking people out? Are you looking around and seeing how many people are checking you out? And then if that's the case, are you sober? I was asked the other day by someone, she asked me, it was on a podcast kind of promoting my new book, and she said, are you sober today? And I know everyone wants me to answer that question and say yes. I know everyone wants that, right? Because I'm this expert in the sex addiction space, right? So everyone's expecting Roland to say, absolutely, I'm sober, I'm 100% sober. But it's funny when people propose that, because my definition's a bit different. I look at this as a process addiction. I don't look at this as a sex addiction. This is a process addiction. I'm addicted to brain processes. And my primary processes, I'm speaking about just myself, I want attention. I want attention from women. I want them to want to be with me and want me in a kind of an intimate sexual way. And then I want men to want to be me. I want men to wish that they looked like me, talked like me, had the things that I had, right? And it all stems from insecurity, right? I need their validation for me to feel good, right? Without it, I feel inadequate. Without it, I feel like I'm not enough yet, right? So that's my process addiction. Again, I don't think we're women and sex kind of rolled into that. Yes, but am I a sex addict? Am I a porn addict? No, I don't think that's an accurate description to describe at least my particular behaviors, right? I want attention. I want a validation, and I need it. I need it so bad. It was to the point where I violated my marital contract. And for those of you who know me, you know how crazy I am in love with my wife. I'm obsessed with her. She's everything I've ever wanted. But I was so desperate to get that validation. My process addiction was so strong that I caved. I violated that contract. I risked the most important thing to me, right? And I'm bringing this example up just because when I'm asked if I'm sober, I think about the brain processes that got me here in the first place. And I ask myself, are those brain processes gone? And I'm going to be completely honest and vulnerable with you guys. They are not gone. Are they better? Yes. Is my impulse control now? Yeah. Do I actually fear like I'm going to, relapse and do any of these sexual things? No, I don't think I'm going to, but those processes are still there. And I think if I took my foot off the gas, could they have the potential to come back and destroy my life? Absolutely. So my call to action with all of you, men and women listening to this, is, are you a part of the problem or are you a part of the solution? Are you making this world worse and harder to preserve the sexual energy for your monogamous commitment? Or are you playing into the problem? Are you objectifying yourself and others? Are you putting everybody on hierarchies? Are you treating your body like a car to be enhanced and souped up for attention? Because again, it's these subtle pieces that are creating a toxic container for relationships and families.